Pagoo, Chapter 8, Around Snail Cousins Rock. Pagoo's pet house rocked and reeled as the angry landlady waddled away from the big crab. As for the big crab, he knew she had been eating mussel meat. Did she have more? Well, he'd sure find it, or he'd eat her. He rushed up and toppled traveling towers with one claw. He poked, he pried, and got nothing. All doors were locked. He scuttled away in disgust. When certain that the bandit had gone, the landlady pried her apartments upright again. Nearby, Pagoo saw a big shell like an ear clamped to the rock. This univalve had a row of holes which spouted small currents of water. So some animal lived and breathed and fed under that shell. Pagoo drew back as this abalone began gliding away on a broad black foot. Pagoo had watched the mussel's foot spin cables to anchor it, but this thick abalone's foot was an anchor all itself. It gripped with powerful suction. An abalone is hard to pry loose when it decides to put its foot down. Now this creature slid away on the rock like a crawling snail. A snail pace is natural for an abalone, the snail's first cousin. This rock was an old family homestead for many snail relatives. They stuck around all over the place. When these bumps on Snail Cousin's rock didn't move, Pagoo went to sleep. Most of the bumps here were limpets, univalves like the abalone. Some shells looked like fancy oval buttons painted with stripes and spots. Others had holes on top like volcanoes. Most limpets stay home during low tide. At high tide, they glide over their rocks to scrape up tiny plants with a raspy tongue. They always return to home base, a neat scar the exact size and oval shape of the owner. No other limpet will ever camp on that spot. Each finds its own scar and settles down, a mere bump on a rock. Teetering up Snail Cousin's rock, the landlady jerked to a wobbly stop that awakened Pagoo. He watched waves bubbling far above him. He looked below at a tangle of kelp washing in, dragging its boulder anchor. The landlady fumbled with this algae plant till she found its long stem. Then she went into her waddle on this floating highway. Pagoo was lulled into a gentle snooze once more, and again was jerked awake. This time he bonged about in his roomy barnacle like a clapper in a bell. Traveling Towers was thumping among little balloons, air floats, looking like green plums. These floats lift and hold their long kelp plants upright in the sea, but this one was just about wrecked. The landlady bumped balloon to balloon, and each bump banged Pagoo. He felt better when she reached smooth, leaf-like blades. On a kelp bridge arching above Snail Cousin's rock, Traveling Towers dragged to a stop. Carrying a full apartment building had made the landlady hungry. She began plucking some food. There, no more bumps jolted Pagoo wider awake. He popped from his doorway and peered down. She was eating again. Good. He waited, but not one meat particle floated up to him. So there were drawbacks to living in Traveling Towers. Stuck way up there, he couldn't go places on his own. He would climb down, but a fish shadow below sent him right back up. Glumly, he batted his feelers. Nothing but common old sea soup again. From time to time, Pagoo swung an eye at the kelp streamers below. He saw several snail relations not stuck to the rock. A sea slug was a snail cousin with no shell at all. Pagoo's eyes fairly spun when one slid past on a nearby kelp blade. This nudibranch was a dazzling sea creature, bright and frilly. This nudibranch could crawl or swim. a 3-inch sample of fancy silk ribbon. It flowed or fluttered along. Snails build themselves gay-colored shells. This nudibranch spent her energy on gorgeous clothes. Like a drowsy rabbit, a huge snail relative nibbled kelp. 2 curled feelers, like rabbit ears, gave the sea hare its name. This smooth, sluggish animal wore no outer shell. As it breathed, wing-like ruffles on its back flapped gently or folded into a spout. Though its size was amazing, Pagoo felt safe near this eyeless giant. It seemed quite defenseless. Yet it could discourage any enemy by squirting a cloud of purple fluid around. Ugh, very distasteful. No animals care to stop sea hares from growing once they have started. This one might grow to a bulky 16 pounds, and it would lay millions and millions of eggs. Luckily, many animals do eat the eggs of sea hares. Otherwise, in a few years, the world's oceans would be packed as solid as a can of sardines with these soft snail cousins. The snails with shells were feeding everywhere, and Pagoo heard, "Son, you've got a tail-length feeling that a snail shell should be your home." And you're right. Even the landlady's smooth turban shell was made by a snail. Now look around you at the live ones. Each snail was grazing, scraping off algae growth with its radula. This tongue moved like a strap pulled forward and back. Where the radula pressed down, sharp-edged blades like the teeth of a file rasped the algae food from rock and weed. Pagoo saw only the shells of the snails. Rounded, smooth, and shiny shells, sharply pronged and pointed shells. Shells long and slender, short and fat, shells like olives, cones, and fancy buttons, spinning tops, and Raja turbans, and they came in all sizes. But could he leap down, yank a snail from its shell, and take cover? That wise character instinct seemed to say, "It isn't being done. Hermits long ago found it too much trouble to pull out a living snail. It sticks to its house like a barnacle." But snails finally die, and other creatures clean their shells out, spick and span. Someday you'll find heaps of empty shells. All of a sudden, Pagoo forgot about shells. Something terrible happened to traveling towers. The landlady on the main floor, the 5 pink concrete towers crowded with barnacles. Even little Pagoo high in his penthouse, all were swallowed.